The kitchen clock said 7:42 a.m. I was standing at the counter with a paring knife, cutting the stems off strawberries for my daughter's lunch, when my mother called and said, "Your brother needs a kidney, and you're the only match." I know how this sounds. Like I'm about to tell you something that happened to someone else. But it happened to me, and I'm still not sure I believe it myself some mornings. My mother's voice on the phone was the first crack. Not the crack itself, but the thing that made me see the crack was already there. She said it like she was telling me we were out of milk. Just a fact. The only match. As if she'd been saving that piece of information for a moment like this. I set the knife down. I'm not sure why I remember that detail, except that it was the last Ordina thing I did before everything stopped being Ordina. My brother Mark had been sick for about 6 months. Kidney failure. We all knew. But no one had told me I was the match until the morning after the DNA test results came back. My mother said they'd tested the whole family. 6 of us. I was the one. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I said, I need to talk to Tom about this. She made a sound I couldn't quite place. Like a laugh without the humor. Tom. Right. Of course. Mom, it's a major surgery. I need to, Elena. Your brother is dying. And then she hung up. I stood there for a minute with the phone in my hand, then picked up the paring knife again and finished cutting the strawberries. That's what I did. I finished the strawberries. I put them in the little container with the blue lid, the one Lily always took to school. I wrote her name on the side in Sharpie, which was pointless because she had the only blue-lidded container in the whole house, but I did it anyway. Tom came down the stairs at 8:05. He was wearing his blue suit, the one he wore on days he had meetings with the partners. He kissed me on the cheek and said, "You look pale." "My mom just called," I said. "I'm the match for Mark." He was pouring coffee. The pot was still half full. He didn't pause. He didn't even turn around. "So you're doing it, then," and that's when I felt it. That tiny wrong note in a familiar song. The one you almost miss, because you've heard the song 1,000 times, and your brain fills in the notes you expect. But this time I heard the wrong note, and I couldn't unhear it. "I haven't decided yet," I said. He turned, finally. He had his coffee in one hand and his briefcase in the other. "It's your brother. Of course you're doing it. What's there to decide?" Later I would think about how he didn't ask about risks. He didn't ask about recovery time. He didn't ask if I was afraid. He just assumed. And not because he loved me or because he believed in family obligation. He assumed because he needed me to do it. But I didn't know that then. All I knew was that something wasn't sitting right. I said, "I'm going to need some time." "This is take all the time you need," he said. "But don't take too long. Mark doesn't have that much time." He looked at me then, and there was something in his eyes I couldn't name. It wasn't concern. It wasn't love. It was something closer to calculation. He left for work. I heard a car in the driveway. It was a silver Audi Q5, 2022. The one he'd bought 6 months ago without telling me first. And then I sat down at the kitchen table, and I could not stop looking at my own 2 hands. And I thought, something is wrong. Something is wrong with my mother. Something is wrong with my brother. Something is wrong with my husband. And I had no idea yet that the DNA test results I was supposed to be the match for would be the very thing that would blow all of it apart. I drove to the hospital that afternoon. I didn't tell Tom I was going. He was in a deposition, anyway, or so he said. The hospital was St. Mary's, the same place where Lily was born, the same place where my father had his bypass. I'd been there enough times to know the parking garage smells like old coffee and wet concrete. Mark was on the 3rd floor. I took the elevator and walked past the nurse's station and found him in a private room with the blinds half drawn. He was sitting up in bed, which surprised me. I'd pictured him weaker. He had an 4 in one arm and a tablet in the other, scrolling through something with his thumb. When he saw me, he put the tablet down and smiled. "Hey," he said. "Mom told me you called. I came to see you. You came to tell me no." I sat down in the chair beside the bed. It was a hard plastic chair, the kind they use in waiting rooms, and I could feel my back start to ache the second I sat down. "I came to talk to you, Mark. That's all." His face changed. He'd always been able to do that, shift from WA-RM to wounded in a single breath. I know what this is. You're SCA red. Everyone's SCA red. But it's not like you're giving me an organ you need. You have 2 kidneys. You need one. That's not the point. What is the point, then? Because from where I'm sitting, the point is I'm dying and you're the only person who can stop it. He said it so plainly. No TRS. No pleading. Just a statement of fact. And I realized then that he'd RSCD this. He'd been lying in this bed thinking about exactly what to say. He'd practiced the line about having 2 kidneys. He'd practiced the word dying. I want to understand something, I said. When did they test everyone? I don't know. A few weeks ago. Who called it? In the doctor, Mark shifted in the bed. The 4-line pulled taut, then relaxed. The doctor ordered it. It's standard road. When someone needs a transplant, they test the immediate family. Right. But no one told me. No one called me. No one said, hey, Elena, we're testing you for a transplant match. I just got a phone call from Mom saying I was the one. Mom handles things. Mom handles things. That's your answer. What do you want me to say? Elena, that we should have thrown you a party, that we should have sent you a CARD. His voice was rising. It was working. He was making me feel like I was the one who didn't understand. I took a breath. I want to see the results. Excuse me, I want to see the DNA test results. The full report. Not just the match. The whole thing. MARKSTA read at me for a long moment. The HRT monitor beeped steadily behind him. Why? Because I want to know what they tested. I want to know what they found. I want to understand why I'm the only match out of 6 people. He didn't answer right away. He looked at the ceiling, then at the door, then back at me. His voice dropped. You don't trust me. I trust the data. I want to see it. It's in my CHA-RT. I can't just, then authorize the release. Have the hospital send it to me. It's my DNA, MARK. I have a right to see it. He STA read at me for a long moment, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Something that looked, for just a second, like fear. Then it was gone, replaced by that same wounded look he'd worn when I walked in. Fine, he said. I'll have them send it to you. But you can't take forever to make a decision. The doctor's talking about putting me on dialysis full-time. I know, I said. You don't have much time. I stood up. He reached for my hand. I let him take it. I love you, he said. You know that, right? You're my sister. I know, I said. But I didn't say it back. I left that room knowing 2 things, that my brother was dying, and that he was lying about something. The results came 3 days later. A FedEx envelope with the hospital logo on it, addressed to me. I opened it in the kitchen while Lily was at school and Tom was at work. I pulled out the report and sat down at the table and read it cover to cover. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a geneticist. But I used to be an architect, and architects know how to read a set of plans. You look for the details that don't fit. The lines that cross where they shouldn't. The dimensions that don't add up. The first page was the match confirmation. HLA typing. Cross-match. All the things they'd told me over the phone. I was a match. That PA-RT was true. The second page was the family tree data. They'd mapped the haplotype groups for all 6 of us. My mother, my father, MARK, me, and my 2 other siblings, SA-Ra and David. The genetic markers were listed in columns. And I saw it, plain as day. MARK's paternal haplotype didn't match my father's. It matched my mother's, which it should. But the paternal markers, the ones that come from the father, those were different. Completely different. Not a mutation. Not a variation. A different lineage altogether. I STA read at it for a long time. I read it again. I lined up my father's markers next to MARK's. Nothing matched. Then I lined up MARK's markers next to mine. Nothing matched there either. MARK was my brother, but he wasn't my father's son. And that meant MARK was my half-brother. My hands were shaking. I set the paper down and picked up my phone and dialed my mother's number. It went to voicemail. I called twice more. No answer. I called my father instead. He picked up on the second ring. Elena. How are you holding up, Dad? I need to ask you something. About the surgery. Your mother told me you were not about the surgery. I took a breath. I got the DNA results. The full report. And there's something I don't understand. Silence on the other end. I could hear the TV in the background. Some daytime show with a laugh track. What don't you understand? He asked. His voice was C.A. Riefel. To C.A. Riefel. Mark's paternal markers don't match yours. More silence. Then, Elena, that's not possible. They must have made a mistake. There are 6 people in the test. Everyone else matches. Only Mark doesn't. He didn't say anything. I could hear him breathing. Then he said, your mother is going to need to be the one to talk to you about this. Why? Because I don't have the answers to the questions you're asking. Dad, I have to go. He hung up. I sat there with the phone in my hand and the report spread across the table. I thought about calling Mark, but I already knew what he'd say. He'd say it was a mistake. He'd say the lab messed up. He'd say I was trying to find a reason to say no. And maybe I was. But that didn't make the data wrong. That evening, Tom came home at 7. He walked through the door, loosened his tie, and kissed the top of my head. What's for dinner? I hadn't cared. I'd been sitting at the table all afternoon. The report was in my hand. I need to talk to you, I said. He stopped in the middle of the kitchen. I saw his shoulders tense, just for a second. Then he relaxed and walked to the fridge and pulled out a beer. Sounds serious. Mark isn't my father's son. He turned around. He had the bottle in his hand, but he hadn't opened it yet. What are you talking about? I got the genetic report. The one from the transplant workup. Mark's DNA doesn't match Dad's paternal markers. He set the bottle down on the counter. Elena, I don't understand what you're saying. I'm saying my mother had an affair. Or something happened. Mark's biological father is someone else. Tom walked over to the table and sat down across from me. He reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. I wasn't sure why. I just didn't want him to touch me right then. Okay, he said. Okay, that's a big deal. But it doesn't change anything about the transplant, does it? You're still his sister. You're still a match. I read at him. That's what you have to say, that it doesn't change anything. Elena, I'm just trying to keep things in perspective. Mark is still your brother. He's still dying. This doesn't— He lied to me, Tom. He told me they tested the whole family. He told me he didn't know anything. But he had to know. You don't get tested for a transplant without seeing the full report. He knew Mark wasn't Dad's son. He knew. And he didn't tell me. Tom leaned back in his chair. Maybe he didn't know how to tell you. Don't defend him. I'm not defending him. I'm trying to understand what you want to do about it. I didn't answer. I looked at the report again. At the columns and the rows of data. At the HRD, unassailable proof of something I'd never suspected. I want to know who his father is, I said finally. And I want to know why my mother has been lying to all of us for 40 hours. I drove to my parents' house the next morning. My mother opened the door before I could knock. She was wearing her dining apron, the one with the flower pattern. She didn't look surprised to see me. I figured you'd come, she said. Come in. The house smelled like lemon cleaner, the way it always did. I followed her into the kitchen. She'd set out coffee and a plate of pies, like we were having a normal visit. Like there was nothing to talk about. Sit down, she said. I stayed standing. You knew. She poured herself a cup of coffee. I knew a lot of things. You're going to have to be more specific. Mark. You knew he wasn't Dad's son. She sat down at the table. She didn't look up at me. She just read at the coffee mug in her hands. I was a different person then. I was 22. I made a mistake. A mistake. You had a child with another man. You passed him off as Dad's son. And you let him believe it for 40 hours. Your father knows. Dad knows he knew. He knew before Mark was born. He made a choice. We both made a choice. She finally looked up at me. Her eyes were dry. She wasn't crying. She wasn't ashamed. What do you want me to say? Elena, do you want me to apologize? Yes. I want you to apologize. I want you to tell me you're sorry you lied to all of us. She shook her head. I'm not sorry. I did what I had to do to keep this family together. If you want to hate me, you can hate me. But I'm not going to apologize for protecting my child. Mark isn't the only one who needed protection. What about me? What about Ra and David? What about Dad? Your father is fine. He's always been fine. I couldn't breathe. I stood there in my mother's kitchen, surrounded by the same appliances I'd grown up with, the same yellow tile, the same lace curtains. And I realized I didn't know her at all. Who's his father? I asked. She took a sip of her coffee. Does it matter who's his father? She set the mug down. A man I was involved with before I met your father. It was brief. It didn't work out. When I found out I was pregnant, I told your father and he married me anyway. He raised Mark as his own. That's all you need to know. Who was he? His name was Charles. He's dead now. He died when Mark was a baby. That's all there is to it. I looked at her for a long moment. You made me believe I was Mark's full sister. You made all of us believe it. And now you want me to give him a kidney. Your blood doesn't see who your father is. You're still his sister. You're still the only match. I don't know who I am anymore, I said. I don't know who you are. I don't know who anyone in this family is. My mother stood up. She walked around the table and put her hand on my arm. Elena. Mark is your brother. He's sick. He needs you. Whatever else is true, that's still true. You can't let this get in the way. I pulled my arm away. I need to think. You've been thinking. You've been thinking for days. How much longer do you need? I didn't answer. I walked out of the house and got in my car and sat there with my hands on the wheel, and I couldn't bring myself to turn the key. My mother had been lying to all of us. And the lie had just become mine to use. I didn't go home. I drove to the Starbucks on Maple Street and ordered a black coffee I didn't drink. I sat in the corner booth with my phone face down on the table, and I tried to remember who I was before all of this. The answer came back clear. I didn't know. I'd met Tom in my third year of architecture school. He was already working at his firm, doing contract law for real estate developers. We met at a party thrown by a mutual friend. I was 25. He was 29. He told me I had a good eye for space. I told him he had a good eye for saying the right thing. We got married 2 years later. I worked for a while. 7 years, maybe 8. I designed commercial spaces mostly. A few residential renovations. I liked the work. I liked the way a building could shape the way people moved through their lives. Then Lily came. She was born EARLY, spent 2 weeks in the NICU. I didn't sleep for 6 months. Tom said we could afford for me to stay home. He said it would be better for Lily. He said it would be better for us. I didn't argue. I was tired. I was red. And somewhere in that exhaustion, I stopped being the person who drew plans and rude being the person who packed lunches. Now I was sitting in a Starbucks with a DNA report in my bag and a husband who had asked me to donate a kidney, like he was asking me to pick up milk. And I couldn't remember the last time anyone had asked me what I wanted. My phone buzzed. I picked it up, expecting Tom or my mother. It was a text from a number I didn't recognize. Elena. It's Claire. I know this is strange. Can we talk? I read at the screen. Claire. I knew the name. Tom had mentioned her a few times. She was a paralegal at his firm. She'd been there for 3 years, maybe 4. I'd met her once at a holiday party. She was tall, dark hair, quiet. She'd complimented my dress. I'd thought she seemed nice. I didn't text back. I called her instead. She answered on the first ring. Elena. Thank you for calling. How did you get my number? Tom gave it to me. A while ago. I kept it. She paused. I need to tell you something. I'm listening. Not on the phone. Can we meet? I thought about Tom. I thought about the way he'd poured his coffee that morning without turning around. I thought about the wrong note in the song. Where, I'm at the firm. 14th floor. Conference room B. I'll be here until 6. I'll be there in 40 minutes. I hung up and walked out of the Starbucks. I didn't know what I was walking into. I only knew that I needed to keep walking. The firm was on the 14th floor of a glass tower downtown. I'd been there before, but never unannounced. The receptionist recognized me and called up to Claire, who came down to get me herself. She was wearing a gray suit. Her hair was pulled back. She looked exactly the way she'd looked at the holiday party, except her eyes were red. She'd been crying. Thank you for coming, she said. Come with me. She led me to the conference room. It had a long table and a window that looked out over the city. She closed the door behind us and gestured for me to sit. I didn't sit. What is this about, Claire? She took a breath. She had her hands clasped in front of her. She was nervous. I could see her knuckles were white. I need to tell you something about Tom. What about Tom? She opened her mouth, closed it, and then said, I've been sleeping with him. For about 18 months. I didn't feel anything. That's the strange part. I'd expected to feel something, anger, grief, shock. Instead, I just stood there, looking at this woman who'd just handed me a grenade. Okay, I said. Claire stared at me. That's all you have to say. Were you expecting me to cry? I was expecting you to be something. I walked to the window. The city was gray. It was winter. The skyline was smudged with clouds. Why are you telling me this? Because I'm pregnant. That landed Ha Road. I turned around and looked at her. What, 3 months? He doesn't know yet. I wanted to tell him, but I couldn't. So I'm telling you. I felt my knees go weak. I sat down in one of the chairs. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. I stared at the table. I stared at my hands. I stared at Claire, who was crying now, her composure gone. I'm not asking you to forgive me, she said. I'm not asking you to do anything. I just thought you should know. You're his wife. You deserve to hear it from someone. How long? I asked. 18 months. I told you. No. How long have you known he was married? She looked at me like I'd slapped her. I always knew. Then why? Claire wiped her face with the back of her hand. Because he told me he was going to leave you. He's been saying it for a year. He said he was just waiting for the right time. The right time. He said once the situation with your brother was resolved, he was going to stop. I held up my hand. The situation with my brother, Claire's face went pale. He didn't tell you. Tell me what? She sat down across from me. She was shaking. I'd never seen anyone shake like that. Tom is Mark's attorney. Not for the transplant. For the custody case. Mark is trying to get sole custody of his son. The transplant is part of his strategy. If he's healthy, he gets the boy. If he's not, he loses him. The room tilted. I put my hand on the table to steady myself. The transplant, I said slowly. The kidney. You're telling me the kidney isn't about Mark's health, the kidney is about his custody case. That's why Tom told Mark to push you. That's why your mother called. Everyone knows, Elena. Everyone but you. I thought about Tom pouring his coffee. I thought about the DNA report. I thought about my mother's voice on the phone, flat and lifeless. All of it was part of something I couldn't see. A machine I'd been living inside without knowing. I need to see Tom, I said. Where is he? He's in a deposition. He'll be back in an hour. But Elena, don't say anything else. I stood up and walked out of the conference room. I walked through the reception area and took the elevator down. I didn't know where I was going. I only knew I couldn't stay in that building. I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes. Then I called Lily's school and told them I had a family emergency and needed to pick her up EROY. The receptionist said of course, no problem. I drove to the school and waited in the CAR line. When Lily got in the CAR, she asked why I was so pale. I told her I was tired. She was 11. She believed me. I drove her to a friend's house for a play date I'd arranged earlier. I told her I'd be back by dinner. I kissed her forehead and got back in the CAR. I had a name now. Claire. And a face. And I had no idea what to do with either of them. I went home. The house was empty. I walked through the rooms and looked at everything with new eyes. The furniture we'd picked out together. The photos on the walls. The life I'd built around a man who'd been planning to leave me. I went into Tom's office. I'd never really been in his office. He'd always kept it closed. I opened the desk drawers and found what I was looking for in the bottom right. A folder labeled MARK. Inside it were copies of all the legal filings for the custody case. The arguments, the evidence, the strategy. The last page was a note from Tom to MARK. It read, "Get her to sign the donation consent form before the end of the month. The judge will see it as a sign of family support. It will make a difference." I closed the folder and put it back in the drawer. I walked out of the office and sat down on the couch in the living room. The clock on the wall said 5:23. I knew what was wrong now. I knew all of it. And the thought that came next surprised me. I didn't feel broken. I felt like someone had just handed me a key. I had a name now. And a face. And I knew what I had to do. I waited for Tom to come home. I didn't make dinner. I didn't pour myself a glass of wine. I sat on the couch with my hands in my lap and I waited. He walked through the door at 6:47. He was still in his blue suit, the same one he'd been wearing that morning. The same one he'd been wearing when he'd kissed my cheek and told me I looked pale. He looked tired. He looked like a man who'd just finished a long day and wanted to take off his shoes and sit down and not think about anything. He didn't get to do that. Elena, he said, dropping his briefcase by the door. You're not dressed. Did we have plans or we have something we need to talk about? He looked at me and I saw it. That flicker of calculation. The same one I'd seen in the kitchen. The same one I'd seen when Mark had shifted in his hospital bed. He knew something was coming. He just didn't know what. Okay, he said. Let me get a drink. Sit down. He hesitated. I saw it. A tiny pause, less than a second, but I saw it. Then he walked over and sat in the A-room chair across from me. What's going on? I went to your office today. He didn't react. Not a flinch, not a blink. His face stayed perfectly still. My office. Your firm. I met with Claire. That got him. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. Claire. What did she tell you? Everything. She told me about the affair. She told me about the pregnancy. She told me you've been planning to leave me for a year. He sat there for a moment. The clock ticked on the wall. I could hear a dog barking outside, 2 houses down. Elena, he said, I don't know what she told you, but you know what, screw this. I found the folder, Tom. The one in your desk. The custody case. The note you wrote to Mark. I know everything. He leaned forward in the chair. His hands were on his knees. He looked like a man trying to figure out which way to run. Let me explain, he said. Explain what? That you've been sleeping with a woman half your age, that you've been helping my brother use me for a transplant so he can win a custody case, that you've been lying to me for 18 months. Elena, I want to know one thing, I said. When were you planning to leave me, before the transplant or after? He didn't answer. He just sat there, ring at me. After, I said. You were going to wait until I gave Mark the kidney. Then you were going to leave. That was the plan. The plan was more complicated than that. Was it? Because it seems pretty simple from where I'm sitting. You needed me to stay healthy and curative long enough to give Mark what he needed. Then you could walk away clean. Tom ran a hand through his hair. He was shaking. I'd never seen him shake. I didn't want it to happen this way, he said. You didn't want me to find out. I didn't want you to get hurt. I laughed. I didn't mean to. It just came out, broken sound. You hurt me, Tom. You hurt me every single day for the last 18 months. The only difference is I didn't know it until now. Claire wasn't supposed to tell you. That wasn't part of what the arrangement, the plan. You had a plan and Claire wasn't supposed to break it. She didn't break anything. She shouldn't have told you. It wasn't her place. It wasn't her place. I repeated the words. She's raising her child. I think it was her place. Tom stood up. He paced to the window, then back to the chair. Then he stopped and looked at me. What do you want me to do? He asked. I can't undo what happened. I can't make it go away. No, I said. You can't. But you can tell me the truth. For once. Just tell me the truth about everything. He sat back down. He looked at the floor. His voice was quiet when he spoke. Mark came to me a year and a half ago, he said. He was trying to get custody of Ben. His ex-wife was fighting it. His health was a problem. He needed to show the court he could provide a stable home. The transplant was the best option. So you convinced him to pressure me. I didn't convince him. I just told him what would work. Told him what would work. Like I was a strategy. Like I was a piece on a boa road. Elena, you were never just a piece. Don't tell me you love me. Don't tell me any of that. He stopped. He looked at me and I saw something in his eyes that I didn't recognize. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was something closer to fear. He was afraid of what I was going to do next. Claire is pregnant, I said. What are you going to do about that? I don't know. I just found out. She told me first. Before she told you. She felt like I deserved to know. Tom closed his eyes. I didn't plan this, Elena. The affair happened. I didn't plan it. Didn't plan it. That's your answer. You didn't plan it. Stop twisting everything I say. Then say something that's not twistable. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. Here's what I think, I said. I think you've been so busy running your strategy and managing your affairs and keeping all your lies straight that you forgot something important. What's that? You forgot that I'm not stupid. He STA read at me. I STA read back. I had a decision to make. I knew that. The kitchen clock was ticking somewhere behind me. Lily would be home in 2 hours. I had 2 hours to figure out what I was going to do. I'm not giving Mark the kidney, I said. Tom's face changed. Elena, don't try to talk me out of it. Mark will lose the custody case. His ex-wife will get Ben. He'll be on dialysis for the rest of his life. That's not my problem. He's your brother. He's my half-brother. And I just found out that he's been lying to me for months. You've all been lying to me. Everyone in this family has been lying to me. And you want me to give him an organ, Elena? The transplant isn't about the custody case. It's about his health. He's dying. Then he can find another donor. There is no other donor. You're the only match. Then he's out of luck. Tom stood up. He was angry now. I could see it in the way his jaw tightened, the way his fists clenched at his sides. You can't do this, he said. You can't just decide someone's life isn't worth saving. I'm not deciding that. I'm deciding I'm not going to be used. I'm not going to be a tool for you or for him or for anyone. Elena, this is your family. This is enough, Tom. The words came out flat. I wasn't yelling. I wasn't crying. I just said them and watched them land. He sat down again. He looked like a man who'd just lost a fight he didn't know he was in. What are you going to do? He asked. I don't know yet. But I'm going to figure it out. And I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not going to do it for Mark. I'm going to do it for me. I watched the color drain from his face, and I felt nothing. I called my mother the next morning. I told her I needed to see everyone. All of them. Mark, my father, Ra, David. I needed them at her house on Sunday. Dinner. I told her I had something to Shari. She asked me what it was and I said, you'll see. She didn't push. I think she knew. I think she could hear it in my voice. The difference. The change. Sunday came cold and gray. I drove to my parents' house with a folder in the passenger seat. Inside it were copies of the DNA report, the custody filing, and a letter from my lawyer. I'd hired one on Thursday. I hadn't told Tom. He was sleeping in the guest room now. He wasn't talking to me, and I wasn't talking to him. The house was the same as it had always been. The same yellow tile. The same lace curtains. The same smell of lemon cleaner. My mother had made pot roast. She was trying to keep things normal. Everyone was there. Mark had been released from the hospital and was sitting on the couch with a blanket over his legs. He looked thin. His face was gaunt. My father sat in his armchair, the same one he'd sat in for 40 hours. Ra and David were on the love seat, looking confused. They didn't know why we were all here. They'd just been told to come. I walked in and put the folder on the kitchen table. Everyone looked at it. Elena, my mother said. What is this? I pulled out copies of the DNA report and handed one to each person at the table. I'd made 8 copies. One for everyone. One for myself. This is the genetic test from the transplant workup, I said. The one that identified me as a match for Mark. Ra looked at the paper. I don't understand. What am I looking at? Look at the paternal markers, I said. Look at the haplotype columns. David was the first to see it. He set the paper down and looked at my mother. Mom, what is this? My mother didn't answer. She just STA read at the paper in her hands. Mark isn't Dad's son, I said. He's my half-brother. Not my full brother. He has a different father. My father stood up. He walked to the window and stood with his back to all of us. He didn't say anything. Ra looked at my mother. Is this true? My mother set the paper down. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. I was young. I made a mistake. It was a long time ago. How long? Ra asked. 40 hours. David stood up. You've been lying to us for 40 hours. I was protecting this family. Protecting us from what? I asked. Protecting us from the truth. My mother didn't answer. She looked at Mark, who was staring at his own copy of the report like it was written in a language he didn't speak. Mark, Ra said. Did you know? Mark looked up. His eyes were hollow. No. I didn't know. You didn't know, I said. Mark, you had access to the full report. You saw the same data I saw. You had to know. Elena, I swear, don't swear. Just tell me the truth. Mark stood up from the couch. He was unsteady on his feet. He grabbed the back of the chair to steady himself. I didn't know. Not until after. When the results came back, I saw the mismatch. I asked Mom about it. She told me it was a lab error. She told me not to worry about it. You believed her. I wanted to believe her. My mother was crying now. Silent tears running down her face. She didn't wipe them away. She just sat there. I'm sorry, she said. I never meant for any of this to happen. That's a lie, I said. You meant for it to happen. You built your whole life around it. You made us all believe something that wasn't true. And when Mark found out, you told him to keep it a secret. You made him complicit. I didn't make him complicit. I was trying to protect him. Protect him from what? From knowing who his father is. My mother stood up. She walked over to me and grabbed my arm. Her grip was surprisingly strong. Elena, you don't understand. You don't understand what I went through. Then explain it to me. She let go of my arm. She looked at my father, who was still standing at the window. Then she looked back at me. His father was a man I loved before I met your father, she said. We were going to get my ride. Then he died. He died before Mark was born. I was alone. I was pregnant. And your father offered to marry me. He offered to raise Mark as his own. I didn't ask him to. He offered. I said yes because I had nowhere else to go. My father turned around. His face was drawn. She's telling the truth. I knew everything when I married her. I chose to raise Mark. I've never regretted it. That's not the point, David said. The point is you lied to us. All of us. For 40 hours. What was I supposed to do? My mother asked. Tell you all when you were children that your brother was a basta arty. Don't say that word, Mark said. His voice cracked. Don't call me that. Mark, I didn't mean, yes, you did. You called me that because you think that's what I am. Mark sat back down on the couch. He pulled the blanket over his legs. He looked small. He looked like a child. I put my hands on the table and leaned four-way road. There's more. Everyone looked at me. The transplant, I said. It's not just about Mark's health. It's about his custody case. Mark looked up. His eyes were sharp now. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the folder in Tom's office. The one with all the legal filings. The one where he tells you to pressure me to sign the donation consent form before the end of the month, so the judge will see it as a sign of family support. Mark read at me. His mouth opened, but no words came out. You knew, I said. You knew the transplant would help you in custody. You knew, and you still asked me for my kidney. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Explain how it's different. Mark shook his head. The custody case was important, yes. But I need the kidney. I need it. I'm dying. You've been dying for 6 months. You could have told me about the custody case anytime. You could have been honest with me. But you weren't. None of you were. Sarah looked at me. Elena, I didn't know about any of this. I didn't know about Mark's father. I didn't know about the custody case. I'm so sorry. I know you didn't know, Sarah. That's why I invited you. I wanted you to see the truth. All of it. David stood up. He was angry. His face was red. This family is a disaster. Everything we thought we knew is a lie. My mother walked over to me. Elena, please. Think about what you're doing. Think about what you're about to destroy. What I'm about to destroy, Mom, you already destroyed it. You just didn't tell anyone until now. She looked at me with such sadness in her eyes. Your father and I had a good marriage. We raised you all. We gave you a home. Doesn't that count for anything? It counts for something. But it doesn't count for everything. I sat down at the table and opened the folder. I pulled out a copy of the legal CEPE ration papers. I'm filing for CEPE ration from Tom, I said. He's been having an affair for 18 months with a woman he works with. She's pregnant. I found out last week. And he's been helping Mark pressure me into the transplant. The room went silent. Even my mother stopped crying. Tom and Claire Ra asked. I've met her. She seems so nice, I said. She seems nice. She told me herself. My father walked over from the window. He put his hand on my shoulder. Elena. I'm sorry. I didn't know about Tom. No one knew about Tom. That was the point. Mark spoke up from the couch. I didn't know about Tom, Elena. I didn't know about the affair. You knew he was your attorney. You knew he was helping you with the custody case. You knew he had a stake in all of this. I didn't know he was sleeping with someone else. It doesn't matter what you knew and what you didn't know. What matters is that everyone in this family has been lying to me. And I'm done. I stood up from the table. I walked to the door. My mother called my name. I didn't turn around. My mother looked at me and said, "You've ruined everything." And I said, "No, Mom. I just found the truth." I didn't go home after my parents' house. I drove to a hotel. A Holiday Inn off the highway, the kind with fluorescent lights and thin pillows and a smell that's half cleaner and half someone else's life. I checked in under my own name. I didn't see if anyone found me. I sat on the bed with my phone in my hand. I had 14 missed calls. 3 from my mother. 2 from Mark. 4 from Ra. 5 from Tom. I didn't answer any of them. I called my lawyer instead. Her name was Marga Rett. She was a small woman with sharp glasses and a voice like gravel. I'd hired her 3 days ago. I'd told her everything. She'd listened without blinking. Elena, she said. I was going to call you. The CEPE ration papers redrafted. I need you to come in and sign them. Can I do it tomorrow? Tomorrow works. There's something else. What? Tom's attorney called me. They want to meet. They want to discuss the terms. They want to negotiate. They want to see what you're willing to take. I looked at the ceiling. The water stain in the corner looked like a map of a country I'd never visited. Tell them I want the house. I want full custody of Lily. I want half of everything in the joint accounts. And I want a written statement from Tom admitting the affair and his role in the custody case. Marga Rett was quiet for a moment. That last one. The written statement. Why do you want that? Because I want it on paper. I want him to have to sign his name to what he did. Elena, I'm going to tell you something. You don't need that statement to get what you want. The house, the money, the custody, I can get you all of that. But if you push for the statement, he's going to fight. It's going to cost you time and money. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Okay, I'll let them know. I hung up and lay back on the bed. The pillows smelled like bleach. I closed my eyes and I saw all of them. My mother's face when I'd handed her the DNA results. Mark's hollow eyes. Tom's shaking hands. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty. But it was a clean emptiness. Like a room after you've taken all the furniture out. I stayed in the hotel for 3 days. I had room service. I watched bad television. I called Lily every night and told her I was working on something important and I'd see her soon. She asked if Daddy was okay. I said I didn't know. On the 4th morning, Tom called. I answered. Elena. I need to see you. I don't think that's a good idea. Please. We have to talk. There are things I need to tell you. Tell me on the phone. No. In person. At the house. Just 1 hour. Then I'll leave you alone. I thought about it. I thought about Lily. I thought about the house and the life and the IRS I'd given him. 1 hour, I said. I drove to the house at noon. The sun was out. The street was quiet. Tom was sitting on the front steps. He was wearing jeans. I hadn't seen him in jeans in IRS. He looked younger. He looked smaller. I sat down next to him on the steps. We didn't touch. I've been thinking, he said. About everything. About us. Thinking isn't going to fix this. I know. That's not why I asked you here. Then why? He turned to look at me. His eyes were red. He'd been crying. I'd seen Tom cry twice in our entire marriage. Once when his father died and once when Lily was born. This was the third time. I'm not going to fight this epee ration, he said. I'm not going to fight you on any of it. I looked at him. You're giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm just not going to make it harder than it already is. You deserve better than I gave you, Elena. You deserve better than I am. Tom, let me finish. I know I can't undo what I did. I know I can't take it back. But I can let you go. I can do that much. I didn't say anything. I looked at the house. The house I'd picked out. The house I'd made into a home. The affair, I said. Why, he looked at the ground. I don't have a good answer. I was bored. I was restless. I felt like I was stuck in a life that wasn't mine. And Claire, she was new. She made me feel like I could be someone else. You made a choice, Tom. Every day, you made a choice. Yes, I did. I made the wrong one. I stood up. He stood up too. I want a statement, I said. A written statement. I want you to admit what you did. The affair. The custody case. Everything. He didn't flinch. Okay, just like that. I'll give you whatever you want, Elena. I mean it. Whatever you want. I want you to tell Lily yourself. Not me. I'm not going to be the one who tells her her father betrayed her. You're going to do that. Tom closed his eyes. I'll do that. Is there anything else? I took a step closer to him. I want you to know something. I'm not doing this because I hate you. I'm doing this because I don't trust you anymore. There's a difference. I know. Do you? Because I don't think you understand what you took from me. It wasn't just the Mariusz. It was the person I was when I was with you. I gave you everything. I gave up my career. I gave up my identity. I made myself small so you could be big. And you didn't even notice. Tom sta rude to speak. I held up my hand. Don't tell me I'm wrong. Don't tell me I'm exaggerating. I know what I gave up. I know what I lost. And I know it's not coming back. But I'm not going to lose anything else. I walked to my car. Tom watched me go. I didn't look back. The next morning, I met with Margaret. I signed the epee ration papers. She told me Tom had agreed to everything. The house. The custody. The money. The statement. He sent this over this morning, she said. She slid a piece of paper across the table. I read it. It was written in Tom's handwriting. A letter. It wasn't long. It said the truth. The affair. The custody case. The pressure. Everything he'd done. I folded the letter and put it in my bag. I didn't read it twice. What are you going to do with it? Margaret asked. I'm not going to use it against him. I'm just going to keep it. So I never forget. Margaret nodded. You're doing the right thing, Elena. I'm doing the only thing I can. I walked out of the office and into the bright winter sun. I had a plan now. A life. A future. I didn't know what it would look like, but I knew it would be mine. I got in my car and drove to Lily's school. It was lunchtime. I asked the receptionist if I could take her out early. She said yes. Lily came out with her backpack. She looked at me and she knew. She was 11. She wasn't a baby anymore. Mom. What's going on? I knelt down in front of her. I took her hands. Daddy and I are going to live in different houses now. It's not your fault. It's not anything you did. But I need you to know that I love you. And I'm always going to be here. No matter what. Lily didn't cry. She just nodded. Then she hugged me. She held on tight. I held on too. I was watching the color drain from his face, and I felt nothing. That had been the point. That had been the moment. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I just felt free. The house felt different after Tom moved out. Not empty. Just quieter. The kind of quiet that settles into the walls when the noise of another person's presence stops filling the rooms. I didn't miss him. That was the strangest part. I'd expected to miss him, at least a little. I'd spent 14 years waking up next to him, making coffee for him, planning meals around his schedule. I thought the absence would feel like a wound. Instead, it felt like a door finally closing. I rearranged the furniture in the living room. I painted Lily's room the color she'd always wanted. I sta root king again, real king, the kind I'd stopped doing when everything got complicated. I made lasagna from scratch. I baked bread. I filled the house with smells that had nothing to do with him. Lily adjusted faster than I did. She was 11. She had friends, school, a life that didn't revolve around her parents, Mariage. She stayed with Tom every other weekend. She came back with stories about the new apartment, the new neighborhood, the new everything. She didn't seem sad. She seemed like she was figuring out how to have two homes. I was proud of her. I was also broke. Not destitute, but close. The settlement was generous on paper, but paper doesn't fill a fridge. I'd been out of the workforce for 11 years. My architecture license had expired. I had a degree I hadn't used in a decade and a resume that listed my last job as homemaker. I went back to school. Not architecture. Something smaller. I took a certification course in drafting and design. ISTA route freelancing. Small projects. Kitchen remodels. Bathroom layouts. Nothing glamorous. But it was work. It was mine. 6 months after Tom left, my mother called. She'd been calling every few weeks, leaving voicemails I didn't return. This time I answered. Elena, she said. I need to see you. Why, Mark is getting worse. The doctors say he doesn't have much time. He's on dialysis full-time now. He's not going to make it if he doesn't get a transplant. I didn't say anything. Elena, I know what he did. I know about the custody case. I know about Tom. I know everything. And I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm asking you to save his life. Mom, I can. You can. You can. You're the only one who can. I put my hand over my eyes. I could feel a headache rooting behind my temples. I can't just give him a kidney, Mom. It's not that simple. Why isn't it you have two? You only need one. Because it's my body. It's my choice. And I already made it. She was silent for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Softer. I know I failed you. I know I lied to you. I know I put you in a position you never should have been in. But Mark is my son. He's your brother. And he's dying. Half-brother. Half-brother, full brother, it doesn't matter. He grew up with you. He played with you. He's the only brother you have. I closed my eyes. I thought about Mark as a child. The way he'd teach me to ride a bike. The way he'd hide my toys and make me find them. The way he'd protect me from the other kids on the playground. I'll think about it, I said. That's all I can promise. I went to see Mark the next day. He was back in the hospital. The same room, the same bed, the same beeping monitors. He looked different. He looked like a man who was running out of time. He was asleep when I walked in. I sat in the hard plastic chair and waited. It took 20 minutes for him to wake up. Elena, he said. His voice was thin. You came. I came to talk to you. He tried to sit up. I helped him. He was weak. His hands were shaking. I know what you're going to say, he said. You're going to tell me you won't do it. You're going to tell me I don't deserve it. I didn't come here to tell you that. Then why did you come? I leaned 4-way road. I came to tell you I'm not angry anymore. I was angry. I was so angry I couldn't see straight. But I'm not angry now. I'm just tired. Mark looked at me. His eyes were wet. I'm sorry, Elena. I'm so sorry. I should have told you the truth. I should have told you everything. Yes, you should have. I was SCA red. I was SCA red of losing Ben. I was SCA red of dying. I made choices I shouldn't have made. I know. I don't deserve your kidney. I don't deserve anything from you. I sat back in the chair. I looked at my brother. The brother I'd grown up with. The brother who'd taught me to ride a bike. Mark, I said. I'm not going to give you my kidney. But I'm going to help you find another donor. I'm going to call everyone. I'm going to post on every social media platform. I'm going to talk to every hospital in the state. I'm going to do everything I can to find someone who matches. But I'm not going to be that person. Mark read at me. He didn't argue. He didn't plead. He just nodded. Thank you, he said. Thank you for that. I stood up. I walked to the door. Then I turned back. One more thing, I said. Ben. The custody case. Did you win? Mark shook his head. I dropped it. I couldn't go through with it. Not after everything that happened. I didn't say anything. I just nodded and walked out. A month later, I had my first solo project. A restaurant renovation downtown. The owner was a woman named Diana who'd RD about me through a friend of a friend. She wanted a new layout, an open kitchen, a dining room that felt like a home. I designed it in 3 weeks. She loved it. She hired me. The day the restaurant opened, I stood in the back and watched the customers come in. They didn't know me. They didn't see who I was. They just wanted good food and a nice place to eat. I'd given them that. It was a small thing, but it was mine. I thought about Tom. I thought about the years I'd spent trying to make him happy. The years I'd spent shrinking myself to fit his life. I thought about the way he'd poured his coffee that morning without turning around. The way he'd assumed I'd say yes. I thought about the DNA report. The dinner at my parents' house. The folder in Tom's desk. The look on Claire's face when she'd told me she was pregnant. All of it. All of it had led to this. This moment. This kitchen. This life. Lily was asleep when I got home. I walked into her room and sat on the edge of her bed. She stirred, opened her eyes. Mom, go back to sleep. Are you okay? I smiled. I'm fine. I'm better than fine. She closed her eyes. I watched her breathe. I watched the rise and fall of her chest. I thought about how small she'd been when she was born. How small she still was. How big she would be. I walked back to the living room. I sat on the couch and looked around the house. The house I'd kept. The house I'd made mine. I thought about the final conversation I still needed to have. The one with Tom. The one Margaret had said I should just skip. But I knew I couldn't. I knew I needed to say it out loud. Not for him. For me. I called Tom and asked him to come over. He came the next evening. He stood in the doorway like he wasn't sure he was allowed to enter. Come in, I said. Sit down. He walked to the couch and sat down. I sat across from him in the armchair. The same positions we'd been in the night I'd confronted him. Except this time, it felt different. This time, I wasn't angry. I wasn't hurt. I was just done. Tom, I said. I need to tell you something. And I need you to listen. Just listen. Don't interrupt. Don't apologize. Just listen. He nodded. The night you told me you'd been having an affair, I didn't cry, I said. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. Do you remember that? Yes. At the time I thought it meant I was in shock. But I know now it wasn't that. I didn't cry because I realized I wasn't surprised. I realized that I'd been expecting it. Not the affair itself. But something. Some betrayal. Some moment where you showed me who you really were. I'd been waiting for it for years. Tom opened his mouth. I held up my hand. I told you to listen. He closed his mouth. I don't blame you for the affair, I said. I blame you for the way I felt. The way you made me feel. Like I was invisible. Like I was a piece of furniture. Like I was there to serve you and nothing more. You married a woman who could have been anything. You just didn't want to see it. You wanted a wife. A mother for your child. A person who would make dinner and keep the house clean and never ask for anything. And I gave you that. I gave you everything I had. And it was never enough. I took a breath. My hands were steady. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty, I said. I'm saying this because I need you to understand. When I walked out of this house, I didn't leave you. I left the person I was when I was with you. I left the version of myself that thought love meant shrinking. I left the woman who would have given her brother a kidney because her husband told her to. Tom was crying now. Silent TRS. I didn't reach for his hand. You don't have to say anything, I said. I don't need anything from you. Not anymore. But I needed you to hear this. I needed to say it out loud. I stood up. Tom stood up too. He wiped his face with the back of his hand. Elena, he said. I don't know what to say. Then don't say anything. I walked him to the door. He paused on the threshold. Are you going to be okay? He asked. I looked at him. I looked at the man I'd married. The man I'd loved. The man I'd stopped loving. I'm going to be better than okay, I said. He walked out. I closed the door behind him. I leaned my forehead against the wood. I listened to his footsteps fade down the walkway. And then I heard a voice from the stairs. Mom, I turned around. Lily was standing at the top of the stairs in her pajamas. She was rubbing her eyes. I thought you were asleep, I said. I woke up. I heard voices. I walked to the bottom of the stairs. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you. Is Dad gone? Yes. Dad is gone. Lily walked down the stairs. She came to me and hugged me. She was getting tall. She was Nearly my height. Are you okay? She asked. I hugged her back. I held her tight. I thought about all the things I'd tell her someday. All the things she needed to know. All the things I'd only just learned myself. I'm okay, I said. I'm more than okay. She pulled back and looked at me. Her eyes were clear. She wasn't SCA red. She wasn't confused. She was just my daughter, and she trusted me. Good, she said. Because I'm hungry. I laughed. I didn't mean to. It just came out. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't made in months. Let's get you some food, I said. We walked to the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator and looked inside. Eggs. Cheese. Milk. Vegetables. A half-empty jar of pickles. Enough to make something. What do you want? I asked. Surprise me. I turned around and looked at my daughter. My daughter, who was growing up. My daughter, who was learning how to be strong. My daughter, who was going to be better than I'd ever been. I didn't know what the next 10 years would bring. I didn't know if I'd ever love again. I didn't know if I'd ever trust again. But I knew one thing. I knew who I was. And I knew that was enough. I pulled the eggs out of the fridge. I grabbed the cheese and the milk. I found the last of the bread in the pantry. I made French toast. The same French toast my mother used to make. The same French toast I'd made for Lily 100 times before. We sat at the kitchen table. We ate. We talked. We laughed. The house was quiet, but it wasn't empty. It was full. Full of us. Full of the life I'd chosen. Full of the person I'd become. That was the ending. Not a grand gesture. Not a scene of destruction. Just a woman in a kitchen, making breakfast for her daughter. A woman who'd finally stopped shrinking. A woman who'd finally learned to say no. And as I sat there, watching Lily eat, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't anything I'd expected to be. I was just here. In my house. With my daughter. Living my life. And it was enough.